Welcome to Three Season of Pod NBA Edition, Episode 7.
Ooh,
Pretty sure it's Episode 7.
should be. I
Yeah,
mean, we said six last time, so
we did say 6 last time, so it's
it's
7.
7. Yeah.
Jaylen Brown. Okay. Post All-Star break, right? All-Star break is finally over.
Uh-huh.
I think it's been kind of nice to take a little break from
Absolutely.
maybe not watching basketball, but like I don't know, I always enjoy watching hoops, but
I feel like right before
yeah.
what is it? All-Star break is actually the time where I'm kind of like
You're
not
kind of
watching
burnt
as
out.
much.
Yeah, exactly. Like games
So even
will be
like
on.
like Celtics games and stuff like that, it definitely starts to like slow down a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And I honestly slow down on like live tweeting too around this time. Where
Yeah.
it's just like, you know what? I'm tired of going, yay, Al Horford. You know, it's just
Yeah, like we already know the gist of it, and teams are even like that too, where it's like we can tell where some teams like really need an All-Star break or something like that. I think like
100%.
randomly, but like the Kings are one of those teams. I think they were. I'm not sure if they were on a losing streak specifically, but they lost like a lot out of like maybe like a 10-game sample or 10-game size from the right before the All-Star break. And bro, Kings fans were just wishing for that shit to come sooner.
Yeah, I know the Bucks fans were wishing for that shit too.
Yeah, Bucks fans too. Yep.
Sure.
So it's like teams be feeling it the same way.
Nah, but no, the break is honestly needed. It's a long, grueling part of the season, and then and honestly, like I don't know about you guys, but like with the new format where they get a full week off essentially, so like the game happens on Sunday, and then today's Thursday, so like they get that 3-day like period of just rest. I feel like with the lull in no games, all people are talking about now is like basketball. Like you're starting to crave it, and then the stretch run hits right at that moment, and I think it hypes it up even more. So like, what is it? February 22nd right now. The playoffs start literally April 12th. So we're officially a month and a half away from the playoffs. So you kind of start feeling the buzz for it, in my opinion. At least I do.
Yeah.
Speaking of playoffs, all right. So I feel like coming into the season, we had our list of contenders, and the list was pretty long, I felt. Right? I think off the top of my head, all of us had some variation of Denver, Boston, Phoenix, Milwaukee, Miami. Probably throw in. I think Kyle, you threw out the Mavericks, right?
Yeah, I mean there was at least like 3 or 4 on each conference.
Yeah, we threw out the Lakers. Funny, right? The Lakers. And how things have changed now. But like now, I feel like, in my opinion, there's 3 teams. I think you guys we talked about this a little bit offline, but you guys had like 4 teams. So like 3 to 4 teams really have separated themselves. I don't think there's 7 or 8 contenders anymore.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. So I'm gonna throw out a name.
Let's do it.
I'm not gonna throw out the obvious name because I'm always gonna be the one that says it. So I'll say the other name and this might be
the other obvious one.
The other obvious one I'm not gonna say either.
Okay.
Okay, we're just gonna say it. We don't have to talk about it. It's the Celtics and the Nuggets, right? So like, but I'm gonna throw out the other team, and it's gonna be a little contradictory to what I've said before, and I only said it for engagement. But and so that we could talk about it. But like, let's be honest here. I think the other team on my list was the Clippers. I like the way that Harden has especially after Russ made the announcement, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah, I mean he wanted it himself.
He wanted to go to the bench.
Yeah.
So like, I think especially after like changing the dynamic of Russ off the bench, helped gel that team the way it's supposed to. Like, I guess you really wanted them to be gelled, right?
No, yeah, I agree. I think that was like one of the biggest things. With just like having too many of the play or too many like good to great players.
Exactly.
Like it was super necessary for us to subtract that element, I guess, of play from the squad, because now like we even saw it too, where just the 3 of them were trying to figure out how they were going to play amongst each other, and like Kawhi was not going as crazy the first like 5 to 6 games or whatever like that, but it's really starting to click now, honestly.
100%. I think I also like to point out that this is probably the first year in 3-ish years now, maybe 4 years, that Kawhi has been relatively healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think after at the halfway point and the way they've managed his injuries, like he's starting to look like the old Kawhi again. You know, the two-way
Mm-hmm.
superstar that we've come to expect
Crazy.
to see.
Uh-huh.
I think the same can be said about Paul George, where like maybe not to the extent of Kawhi, but he's been relatively injured the last 2 to 3 years as well. His entire Clipper tenure, honestly, he's been in the same boat where you're now finally seeing the Clippers healthy, right? This is probably the team that we were expecting to see the last 2 to 3 years, where I think coming into every season, everybody you look on paper, you're like the fucking Clippers are a contender, right? And I
Always.
think they essentially got James Harden for free when you think about it.
Yeah, yeah. None
Um,
of those guys are like difference makers like
exactly,
that.
and so man, the way they're gelling now, I probably they're neck and neck with the Nuggets in the West for me.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this as like a main mini like segue to actually like talk about the Celtics in a way. Um, just like to give light to each of these like teams, I guess. But I feel like the Clippers and Celtics are one built, but also like play in a very similar light in terms of like their shot diet and the way that they have their best two players are wings basically. So there's a lot of overlap in their play essentially. The interesting thing for me personally, I mean, you guys may feel differently, where it's like I trust the Clippers three or like two, I guess, more than the Celtics at this moment. I don't know where I would go in a debate or like a talk about like Tatum versus like Kawhi and stuff like that. But I know in a playoff setting, I would very much trust those guys to get their shots easier compared to our two guys. So I think like yeah, that matchup is could be extremely interesting. And it all ends up relying on just if these guys are healthy. But the what is it? The variable for the Celtics is basically if Tatum can figure it out this playoffs. Like we obviously know that he can get far into the playoffs, but when I say like figure it out, I just mean like being able to win it all. And you have to have a certain level of play to get to that point. So obviously the team as a whole and like the Porzingis element has changed the team overall. But Tatum basically being able to play and get the efficiency of like a Kawhi shot making in the playoffs is what he would need to reach, which is ironic because both of those teams, like I said, are like true contenders, as we all like have agreed and talked about. So yeah, I think that that'll be like super interesting, and I have faith that Tatum could do it this playoffs, and if not later on, anyways. But yeah, the team overall is like extremely talented. So I would say even if he doesn't reach that like Kawhi level of like shot making and shot creation, I guess that he can reach. I think the other elements of like the Porzingis and like that curveball of an offense is something that the Clippers don't have. Obviously, James Harden is a great point guard, but that post presence slash like just size and shot making of Porzingis is insane for the Celtics squad.
No, for sure, I agree. I mean, I think I would say is, I mean, like I could see the comparisons you're trying to make with Kawhi and like what he has to reach in order for us to kind of win. I think it all comes down, in my opinion, to just JT being the best like version he could be for the team. Because I think he understands like what it's going to take because we've been there and lost, and I think he just knows that as long as he could come out and be the best version, like he's going to make everybody else around him better. And in the aspect of the team has gotten better, he got Porzingis. We have another vet in Drew Holiday, and Derek White has been there. The rest of the team mainly has been there. So I think just him coming out and kind of setting the tone and kind of just taking control and being the leader this time, I think will pay dividends in the end, which will ultimately kind of get us over the top. And then I don't know if you've seen an interview, so him going to say, he's the best player, I think he's kind of in a new mindset, and he's going to take what he's learned and he's going to kind of just carry that and ultimately bring us to fucking Banner 18.
I agree. Actually, that's a good. I like that you brought up that interview because I think
Yeah.
that kind of plays into the stuff that Kyle was just talking about, and I think we've all kind of talked about this a little bit in the past, where there were a lot of times in a lot of games during these deep postseason runs where Tatum felt a little bit too passive.
Mm-hmm.
I hate calling back, but like the 2022 finals, right, against the Warriors, when between honestly games 3 on, he seemed really passive. I think he took like 2 shots a game in the fourth quarters of those games.
Yeah,
And I think in game 6, we were at the game. Me and Nathan were at the game, and Nathan can attest to this. I was like, why the fuck is JT not shooting the ball? Right? I was saying that the whole game, and obviously we were losing, but you just felt like we were gonna lose. But like in each of these deep playoff runs, there were a lot of games, and you have to nitpick him. Obviously, he's been great in a lot of them, but there are a lot of games where he felt passive a lot. Like, and it's not even seemed. He was really passive. And I think the shift in the mindset here is like, yeah, he steps on the court, he feels he's the best player on the court, and that's taking the responsibility of like, hey, I'm gonna be the one that has to come through for this team to finally get over the hump, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I do think and hope that the mindset shift there, and obviously the dynamic of Porzingis, JB, I think becoming less of a black hole on offense, the ascension of Derek White, and then the, I guess, addition of Drew Holiday, like that will help JT kind of play with a different force and not necessarily be countered with like double and triple team. Because like triple teaming off KP and JB is kind of crazy.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with those things. And that's why I think he can, like, it's just more and more promising that he can get to or like we can reach that place essentially. But the only difference, and I mean, I'll keep saying it, is just the shot diet overall.
Yep.
Because even if that mindset shift is like a factor for sure, because I mean, I think we all could see that he had times in the playoffs where he was extremely passive. Even like in last year's Heat series, there were just times where it didn't feel like he was taken over the whole game where he should have, and it felt like that whole comeback was him realizing that he's like obviously the best player. So there's no doubt that plays a part. I just think that those pull-up threes are not as easy to hit, are not going to be as easy, obviously, at the farther and farther that you go. Like, you're obviously going to get like knick-knack injuries into the finals and stuff like that. You're going to get coverage differently and all that kind of stuff. So if there is a world, obviously, where like we go on a crazy run and the pull-up three-point shooting, and just as a team, our three-point shooting is extremely good, and it makes us win the finals. But I would take, the reason why I bring up Kawhi so much is because his shot diet isn't nearly as close to what JT does, but I guess their peaks of play could be very similar, basically. And that's because Kawhi consistently uses his strength to be able to get these mid-range / like drives into his shots, and JT is like, he could easily do that as well. Like, Kawhi, I do think, is like on a different tier of like natural strength, while like JT has like built up a lot of his strength, so it is a little bit different. But JT is one of the most like physical big forwards that we have in the league, and he doesn't use it as often as I would like to see. And I think that could be the only like deficiency in his game. But like I said, if there was any time for it to happen, it would be like this playoffs, for him to finally like show those I guess like ground
his growth.
So like I think that's like the only real issue that I have with the whole like Tatum Celtics thing, and in regards to the Clippers specifically.
No, for sure. I think when you compare the two wings, right, because they're the marquee matchup if they were to meet in the finals, Kawhi is going to have the upper hand, right, because he's been there before and he's gotten over the hump twice. So and once specifically as like literally carrying the team. But yeah, no, I think That would be fun to watch. I'm not gonna lie.
No, it'd be great. It'd be
I would
great.
love 7 games of Celtics Clippers. I'm not even gonna like.
Especially because of how similar they are. I think it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
But Nathan can bring up
Yeah.
You had four, right?
Who was your fourth team?
I assume I know what it is, but
I mean, it was tough. I'm not even gonna lie, but like, I kind of had like each team that I was going through was kind of like, all right, do I really trust this team, or can they really be a contender? But at the end of the day, I mean, I think I'm a big fan of Dame. I just had, I just had the Bucks there.
No, I have them too. I'm not gonna contest that
because it's like Giannis, bro. Giannis, at one point he was considered the best player in the world, and then you add Dame, which I mean, I feel like they still need time to kind of like mesh and find that, and adding in Doc Rivers, who I think doesn't gets overlooked for his coaching. I think he could kind of put them in, a recipe for success in a sense. But I think this last stretch they're gonna have to just kind of like buy into what Doc wants them to do, and just eventually I think they'll pick it up, and they're definitely gonna find their stride, because there's no way you could count on Dame and Giannis. And after this All-Star break and seeing how like everybody's kind of like, all right, giving them advice and telling them, all right, this is what you guys just got to, just you two, like, you guys got to carry this team and go. So that's why I'm like, you know what? I think I can't count them out. So.
No, I agree. I had them on my list as well. I just there's too many variables for the team to not count them out, if that makes sense. I think they're a team that like have an extremely high ceiling, an extremely low floor, and because of that, I don't want to say that they can't ever reach that ceiling. I think they haven't shown a lot of like great signs that they're going to reach that ceiling, but they just have so many like moving parts that there is a world where things just like all click. I'm not saying like right after All-Star break, but just in general, like Doc hasn't really had time to coach or like be a coach, and then obviously like Dame hasn't felt like he ever had a flow in the season in general. So maybe this All-Star break puts him back on the right track and stuff. And then Giannis is Giannis. Like I think in the playoffs, regardless, the best players will be able to bring their team very far. And now that Embiid is out, and obviously like he has his own playoff woes and stuff like that, but just on the NBA, like in the grand scheme of the NBA, it is those three as like the three best players in the league, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to count out Giannis, even though that he has shown like deficiencies, and like, you know, he has lost to the Heat last year, and like hasn't made it extremely far since his championship run, but he has won a championship before, so I'm not going to count that out either.
Yep, no, for sure. I think I had them on my list, but not necessarily in the number one tier.
Yeah.
But you know, to all your points, I agree. Where the talent is just there, right? You have two superstars at the top of the head. If Middleton can ever get back to form, you have Middleton. Lopez is a good piece. Like, they have good pieces on their team. It's just, I'm gonna throw this out there, okay? Because I saw someone bring it up, and the parallels are kind of like scarily similar. And they kind of remind me of the 2019 Celtics, man, where the talent was just there, and then there were so many expectations, and even in the first round, they came out and swept the Pacers, and they took the first game from the Bucks, and you were like, holy shit, this team, right? And then obviously comes out all this turmoil. Kyrie ends up leaving. Al ends up leaving. I think you're looking at a lot of rocky situations in the same sense with the Bucks this year, where they get their coach fired. Dame didn't necessarily want to be there. You know, he'd had his sights set on Miami. All this shit coming out where he's like, who do you want to play with? He doesn't mention Giannis, and then Giannis goes, I love Dame. Like, all this shit on the surface level and kind of talking about it. I think that kind of turmoil can really derail a team. And I agree, though. Their ceiling is crazy. Their ceiling is legit a championship.
Yeah.
But in the same aspect, like you were saying, Kyle, their floor is literally a first-round exit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, so they're literally at both ends of the extremes of like contention, where they can win a championship just as easily as they can lose in the first round.
Yeah. like I'm not putting money on them.
Yeah,
but it's like,
but you guys
it wouldn't surprise me out of all the rest of the teams outside of the ones we already mentioned.
Yeah,
if they were to like the ones to reach the finals.
Exactly. So like I would agree with you guys. Like I don't think you can count these guys out. I don't think you can even call them not contenders.
Yeah.
Like, but man, I have PTSD, man. I got trauma I got to deal with. But I see so many similarities with that 2019.
No, they remind me of like different iterations of the Celtics. Anyway, like exactly. I even brought up the one from like last year in a way where it's just like we were winning purely off talent. I think the dysfunction is extremely similar to the 2019, where it's just like so many moving parts and like personalities and all that kind of stuff. And especially like the main difference, honestly, is just the Doc stuff now. Doc has like come out. I don't know if you guys saw all the quotes, but like man's just been coming out with all
on a press run. He's already making excuses for the fucking next year. It's crazy.
And he was like, "Hey, I didn't ask the coach, but like,
all right, buddy,
you
were consulting Adrian the whole time." Like,
no, it's very I guess interesting, but it wouldn't surprise me if like everything just goes to shit in the playoffs / like even in the offseason for them. But yeah, I think just that high ceiling, it's marginal too. I'm sure between that like tier 1 and tier 2, they're literally at the bottom of that tier 1. I'm sure for me and Nitro.
Yeah,
and then probably at the top of your tier 2, if that.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, I feel like tier 2 is just like all together.
Yeah. Basically, like they have a chance.
There's no separation at all. Yeah.
And I mean, the Nuggets are the Nuggets. We were not really gonna like talk too much about them, but they're defending champs, and I think once they shorten the lineup, it'll be like extreme. Like it'll be fine. They lost a lot of like super key role players, but their starting 5 / like 6 or whatever is just always going to be extremely good. So once you bump up those Jokic minutes, I'm not even worried about any of like other statistic that people could probably pull about why they are, I guess, on the more downward trend, which I think will be. I think they'll end up with like a top 2 seed anyways by the end of the
season. There's like no doubt in my mind that they're going to be in the conversation when the playoffs actually start. So
yeah.
You had a 5th team, Kyle.
No, I didn't have 5. I was just saying. I was saying
okay.
5 in case someone didn't have that.
Oh,
those were my 4 though.
I was like, oh, you gonna leave off?
Hell no.
All right, I think the next 2 or 3 teams are. We all have the same teams. I feel.
We'll see.
I'm gonna say 2. I'm gonna say 2 teams because I think they're the same. They're essentially the same. I'm gonna say the Wolves and the Thunder.
Okay.
I didn't have the Wolves.
You didn't have the Wolves? Oh, you're crazy. That's crazy.
Dude, their shot creation is just so bad for me.
The shot creation is bad, but the talent is there, and so is the defense. Like
I mean that, but I just think that there's so many other teams that are like
for sure. But that's why
genuinely better.
But that's why I think they're kind of like second tier contenders / dark horses. Where like
I guess, but I'm not putting a team that's like there are, in my opinion, like 6 teams better than them. I would choose over them.
1, 2, 3.
In the West specifically, I'm not saying even in the East. In the Western Conference,
you think 6 teams are better than the Wolves in the West?
I think could beat the Wolves.
I say 4 or 5.
I feel like saying could beat and are better are 2 different things.
Oh no, like I would take them. I would take all of them over the
Wolves.
Really? Yeah.
6 teams? 6 teams.
Like 5 or 6, bro.
Let me look at this. Let me look at
solid 4.
And if there's already that many, I'm not putting them on the contenders list.
Let me look at this.
You know what I'm saying?
Let me look at this.
No, I agree.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. I got one of those. I got like maybe 5 teams that could beat them.
Yeah, exactly. And at that point, I'm like, hell no.
I also got 5 teams that can beat the Bucks.
Oh no! I mean, I only have one Eastern Conference team. Is what I'm saying in my tier 2.
Oh, your thing. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm like there's only 2 teams in the East that I think are even close to being like a contender.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. On the West, I damn near have like 7. It's crazy.
Really?
That's crazy. God.
It's not actually 7, but it's probably like 6.
6.
I already know who you
I have like
okay, but I believe in the Wolves, man. I do. I believe in the Wolves. I can't deny defensive talent. I just can't. Like it's just in my heart of hearts, defensive talent is there, and I mean, shit, Ant can go on the heater. You know, Cat. Mm-hmm. I know Cat. We all agree is a bit of a. I don't know if I want to say liability, but like maybe that's the right word. But But no, I'm looking at the Wolves and the Thunder in the same light. Honestly, Thunder are slightly better in my eyes, but I feel like they're both well constructed teams. The Thunder are a bit more stable offensively, but the Wolves are better defensively. But the difference here is they're both young. And I think that's why I have them in the secondary tier / dark horse tier, where their roster construction has them where, Kyle, you may not agree, but I think that they could beat anybody. But if they ran into the Clippers or the Nuggets or even the Suns, honestly, like they probably don't beat them and those guys in a 7-game series.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll talk about. I kind of already said some stuff, but I just think the two main things for me are they have an obvious hole in their defense. As much as their defense is great, Cat can easily be taken advantage of, and I think that is like the biggest issue. So like even as good as their defense is because of Rudy Gobert, I just think that Cat element is going to be exposed in a 7-game series rather than just like a regular season thing where people aren't going to like game plan that shit. They're just, going through the motions and playing their ball. So that I think is easily exploitable. And then the shot creation is just extremely hard for me to like get behind because their defense isn't like all worldly going to carry them throughout the playoffs, if that makes sense. Ant is really their only shot creator. And I think I talk about Tatum's like pull up efficiency and like his shot choices and stuff like that. I think Ant is damn near worse. Like he can get on a heater and he's a great player. And like, yes, everyone talks about him being next up and like he has that kind of game that is very aesthetic / like can be extremely efficient too.
You got the aura.
But yeah, and like aura talks and all that kind of shit. But at the core of it, like if you really watch Ant play, he can take a lot of stupid ass shots. And like yes, he's like extremely young, but they're also just like those are shots that can kill momentum or like not ever get them very far. And like I said, that's a product of him being young, so that's not even like a big deal to me. But if that is your primary shot maker and shot creator, I just don't have a lot of faith in that. And like I said, it can be easily exploitable by teams on both ends. Like on the offense, let him take those stupid ass shots. On the defensive end, let's expose Cat. So it's like those are very easily obtainable for plenty of teams, especially like the lower end teams, which I'm sure we'll talk about, which are like the older heads, which we all know what the older head teams are. But the Thunder I put in a different light, obviously, because I don't think they have as big of a deficiency on both ends. I think the defensive end, the main thing that they lack is size and rebounding, essentially, because Chet is their real only big. And then on the offensive end, I think honestly with the addition of Gordon Hayward, they could be like damn near, not like perfect or flawless or anything, because obviously Shea just has to be able to keep up what he's doing in the regular season. But I would not be very worried about their offense like falling off to the level that like I could fear the Wolves offense falling off.
Yeah.
So that's why like I do have the Thunder on my list, obviously. But I just think those two things for the Wolves are very glaring for me. But I mean, hey, if they show me up, then that's dope. Like I think any young team like really going crazy in the playoffs and like making a name for themselves is dope.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had both teams too. The Wolves, for sure. I think I'm just gonna keep riding with them because kind of bought them since the beginning of the season. So I'm gonna say they kind of like. I don't see them going like crazy far, but they could be a potential contender for sure. Again, like I agree with Kyle was saying. Like I've watched Wolves games, and Ant when it's crunch time and they need a bucket, it's just like here, give it to Ant and let him do what the hell he wants, and he'll be just taking some crazy shots. Like, and there's no other like real like motion on offense. It's just here, clear it out, and give it to Ant. Where Cat, it has no dominance, and all right, with this post up Cat or even that, he kind of just plays soft, in my opinion, and he plays off of what Ant really does. And then Rudy's just, obviously Rudy's just an interior, just around the bucket, basket and getting rebounds and stuff.
Sometimes
I don't know.
I love Rudy, but sometimes his offense is rough.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Even
Other
that,
than
even in the
his
paint.
putbacks and stuff. Yeah. So
Yeah,
and then Cat's he just hangs around the three and a lot like that. And then Jaden McDaniels is really just a lockup 3-and-D guy. So I don't know. I like the team as a whole, but I just think that they're. I kind of said it during the trade deadline, like they're a piece away, like another offensive piece away to kind of take some of that pressure off of Ant, and again, kind of have him like transition to in a different role, like kind of be a playmaker at times and then be a scorer too. So kind of like play both. And then I think Mike Conley he's a good bet, but I think at times he should take playmaker responsibilities over Ant because I think even at his age right now, he's more than capable of definitely running the offense and helping them out. But I mean, like the Wolves, I really do like them, but the Thunder, I think their game kind of it would be more of a seamless transition when it comes to the playoff. Like SGA will definitely be able to do what he's doing. I think in the postseason, but it all depends on how he comes out. But I think the team is just built more like in an advantage for Shea. Like he's going to be able to do what he has to do, and then he has the pieces around him that will like get the job done. Like you have everybody that plays their role. Like they understand what they got to do. Like Lou Dort is a 3-and-D guy. You got Josh Giddey, who's just kind of like a 2 tiers down off of what SGA is, and then you got Chet, who's like a unicorn. And then J-Dub is just a Mr. Do-It-All too. Like he just the mower guy, kind of gets the team going. And then again, adding the aspect of Gordon Hayward, he's gonna add that veteran leadership and kind of just help steer these guys into making a deep playoff run. So again, I just think that the Thunder are more fast and upcoming team that could potentially really strike fear in a lot of the West contenders and just in the playoffs in general.
Yeah, for sure.
No,
I think the Thunder are primed to like slide into that perennial contender type of build already.
Ironically, their offense, bro, is like the complete opposite of the Wolves, man. They have so many like people who can do stuff, like who are skilled creators, I guess. And there's just always so much motion in their offense. It's great.
Yeah,
I think the Shea thing will be the biggest question mark, and that's like the main thing that I'm, I guess, skeptical on. If he can get those same kind of shots in the playoffs, basically.
Can he be that efficient in the playoffs?
Yeah, so it's like we've seen him once where like we in the playoffs, but he was younger, and then we saw the play-in game I think last year, and that wasn't like the most impressive thing ever. So it does make me interested to see if he can get a lot of those shots and efficiency when the defense gets a lot tighter.
For sure, and this is not even a knock on Shea. This is just a genuine like, not concern, but more so, I'm interested in seeing where we see the Embiid fall off in the playoffs. A lot of his fall off can be attributed to the calls he normally would get in the regular season not being called in the playoffs.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying SGA is a free throw merchant, but he does get a lot of free throws.
He does, yeah. And I agree with that.
So like, it'll be interesting how he can adapt his game and if he can still continue to be as efficient as he is in the playoffs when he's not getting the same calls he does in the regular season. So
for me, it's that and just the extra like athleticism. Like I don't think that he can like he's not getting those shots purely off of like crazy athleticism. So that might not even translate into the playoffs. So those shots will be just harder to get essentially. So like he's a tough shot maker.
There's not as much space.
Exactly. So there's going to be less of a capability of Shea getting those kinds of shots still. Because I wouldn't go on the boat of like saying free throw merchant and stuff like that. Even though I agree with you, he gets a lot of free throws and stuff like that.
No, for
and I do think because like he can obviously score a lot without getting a lot of free throws. We're not saying that he.
I'm not saying he's Embiid, all right?
No, exactly. Yeah. Like I think Embiid has a different rep and all that stuff, but I think that added element of like Shea isn't the most. He's like a craftier guy when he gets a shot, so he's not getting these shots off of his athleticism and stuff. So let's just see. I just want to see how that craftiness translates basically into the playoffs.
And will the coach play Gordon Hayward over Josh Giddey for some spacing? It'll be interesting.
I mean, low-key, that coach don't give a fuck. Like he doing whatever he can to win. Like,
he will.
All right, so Kyle, you said you had no Eastern Conference teams, right?
No, I had one, but I'm sure we all know what that one is.
Yes.
You didn't have the other two?
What are the two?
All right, I'm gonna throw it out here. I don't think these guys will win a championship. But I do think there's a path where these guys can make the Eastern Conference Finals if the seeding goes correctly.
I really only got one. I'm trying to see who your other two are.
The Knicks and the Cavs.
I don't got the Cavs.
You don't got the Cavs?
No.
I like the Cavs, man.
That front court is not going to work, bro. It's the same thing that I think about with the T-Wolves, but less in the regards of like
talent.
In the opposite direction, I would say. Like on the offensive end, they can't work together, but on the defensive end, they do work well together. While with the T-Wolves, I think it's the opposite. Yeah, offensively, I just don't think that they can reach that point to, in comparison to the Knicks. Like the Knicks, it would fucking suck, and I would hate it if they beat the Celtics. But I wouldn't be extremely shocked if they beat them. No, the Knicks. If the Knicks beat the Celtics, like I said, it would suck. But I wouldn't be shocked. I would be extremely shocked if the Cavs beat the Knicks or the Celtics in a playoff series. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I only have the Knicks, because they are they are built extremely well, like we've all been saying, and they have so many pieces out at this moment that are bound to come back.
Okay, so the Knicks are on your list. I thought you said I thought you were gonna say the Knicks aren't on your list. Okay.
No, the Knicks are on my list. I have one Eastern Conference team for the tier 2.
Okay,
is what I'm saying. Yeah. So yeah, the Knicks are there, but yeah, the reasons I'm talking about the Cavs. Easier schedule right now. I don't think Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell play great together. They're great individually, and they still are able to win when they both play and stuff. But I think that just doesn't flow very well. And same thing with the front court. It's like those guys defensively are really cool too, but on the offensive end, I don't think they've figured it out. And I think that'll be just a deficiency for any team to really like expose. And hey, I mean, they got fucking like sunned by the Knicks, and they were a lot worse last year. So
I look at it this way, right? I don't think they beat the Celtics. Not even a thought in my head. I'm talking, and this is why I said it all depends on seeding, right? So right now they're the 2 seed by like 2.5 games. They're 2.5 games up on Milwaukee. There's a reality here where there's a path where they can, if they go on a run and they have the talent to do so. I get what you're saying. I agree. I think the mix and match. I do think one of Garland or Mitchell has to go, and it's looking a lot more like D. Mitch is going to leave. Anyway,
yeah, I mean that might happen.
And then I do think they need to separate Mobley or Allen. It's probably going to be Allen, if we're being honest. They do need to reconstruct that and retool that roster, but the talent is there, man. And I just see a path where they can realistically beat. Currently, Miami's in the 7th seed. They can beat Miami. Will they beat Miami? I don't know.
See, at that point, I don't put it. At that point, I'm not going to put them on my list. Basically,
No, I get what you're saying, but there's such a short list on the East anyway.
No, that's what I'm saying.
So it's like I feel like contention. So like contention is elite contention for me is a team where I truly believe this team has a possibility of winning the championship, right?
Yeah.
Whereas dark horse and second tier contention are teams that are either knocking on that door or have it in them to make a run to like the conference finals or something.
All I'm saying is that I was a little bit more strict with this one because I've seen more of the teams, but also I don't think realistically, like the Cavs, I think their peak is the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks, I think their peak is the finals. So that's like the differentiating. And if I don't see a peak of finals for any of the teams, then I'm not going to put them there basically.
Okay. I got you.
So yeah, that's why I only had those two on the East, because I mean realistically, those Eastern teams don't have not a lot of Eastern Conference teams have that peak.
Do something for me real quick, Al. Do something for me real quick. Just say the statement, all right? What? The Miami Heat are not contenders. Please say it.
I'm gonna say I don't give a fuck. The Miami Heat are not contenders.
Yes. Fuck them.
I do not give a fuck, man. Like they're black magic out around eventually.
Fuck them. The devil has collected his soul, baby. Pat Riley, you're done. You're finished.
This is the year, bro, that they don't really amount to anything. I really don't care. I respect them in the playoffs for sure, but finals run again, I don't see. And that's why I'm not going to put them on my contenders list at least.
I will go so far as to say this, just on the subject of the Miami Heat. Yo, get that 8 seed. We need our lick back, baby. Season 4.
Yeah, I mean, low key, I don't know if I would like that as a first round matchup just because of the way they be playing. But I would like a rematch for sure.
We need that redemption, man.
I think that would.
We can't have a finals run and then have that in the back pocket where people are like, "Oh, you didn't go through us." You know what I mean?
I was gonna say that. I think if we talk about mentals and like Tatum and shit,
exactly.
Beating the Heat in the playoffs would be fucking different for them. They would fight their demons, bro. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys want to talk more about the Cavs Knicks or like you specifically, Nathan, but that was my spiel about them too.
I mean, I did have the Cavs because but they were definitely like a kind of more of a dark horse. But I definitely think the only other Eastern Conference team for me too is the Knicks. Like that's the other team where I feel like if it's not the Celtics, it's gonna have to be the Knicks because all the moves that they made, the way they kind of reconstructed and retooled their roster to fit their play style and kind of how they want to go about their things. I think they're just more primed for a deeper run than they're expecting. Like last year, I think they kind of caught the war like just NBA casuals by like storm when they beat the Cavs and they made it to the second round and then losing ultimately to was it Miami, right?
They lost to Miami.
Yeah, they did it.
Yeah, and then I just think this year it's like I think at least they'll make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and if they see us, good luck because we ain't no way we going out of that. But
there's no way.
Shit, like
that'll be an annoying ass matchup too.
It would be annoying, but I think season 5 or 6.
Yeah, I mean, I still got us for sure.
We kind of just have their card. In my opinion, like the Knicks don't really strike fear. They strike fear in a sense of like just the matchups and stuff. But I think ultimately, like when JT sees the Knicks, man, it's like yo, fuck it. Like
that I agree with.
Kill yeah.
The only fear, I guess I could say, not really fear, but for lack of a better term, fear with the Knicks is that they excel in one thing that we like suck at, which is just like interior presence. Like physical teams that are just like big / like are aggressive as fuck to the rim are just like teams that I fear for the Celtics essentially because we are more of a finesse team. I mean, obviously we can win ugly games, but we don't win ugly games as much as like the Nuggets and shit. And obviously that's why they are a championship team.
Hey man, the Knicks got rid of the Celtics killers, so I'm not concerned. All right, RJ Barrett and Emmanuel quickly turned into like NBA superstars when they play against us. So I'm
Emmanuel quickly specifically, bro.
Especially that motherfucker, crazy. Man. I hated that.
Crazy, bro.
I hated it when that motherfucker skipped across the garden, man. I'm tired of it.
That shit got me heated.
Hey, they sent him to the Shadow Realm, man. They sent him to Toronto, so I think we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Did you have anything more for the Knicks?
Those are my Eastern Conference teams, or my two.
I mean, just Knicks. I mean, I really hope we get that Eastern Conference because I'm gonna have a field day when I talk to Joshua and Cisco about this.
Yo, they better not see me on Christmas. No, but for real, I agree. I had the Cavs as my second team, but the Knicks are obviously the team. I had them here in my notes as the Eastern Conference Finals appearance. Like I had them in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Celtics. Unless they stay at the 4 seed, because I think if they're at the 4 seed, we play them in the semis.
Or second.
But as they get healthy, I think Randall's out for another month or so. Mitchell Robinson's been in and out, pretty much out actually.
I mean, he's supposed to be out for the season, but I think he's going to be back for the playoffs. No, he was. They declared that at first. But there's a high or mid to high chance of him coming back for the playoffs.
Yeah, if he's back for the playoffs and kind of eases into it, and they're in the second round, he'll be a great addition. And then I think OG is out for like another
3 weeks.
3 weeks or so. But the talent is there.
I mean, low key. Yeah. If they got fresh legs, man, that's gonna be pretty good for them. Especially the way that Tibbs be running it. But I do hope they're on the other side of the bracket. I would love the Eastern Conference Finals.
I would rather them be in the Eastern Conference Finals than the second round matchup because that would
that'd be so entertaining.
Yeah. So West teams.
Yeah, let's do some Western teams. This is what I'm saying. Where I'm like, I got a lot of Western teams.
I
already
said two. So if you guys want to go ahead,
you said Thunder and Wolves.
And the Wolves, yeah.
Loki, I mean, you brought him up, but I can talk about, or we can bring up the Suns.
Yeah,
I think,
the Suns. I had them on my list.
Yeah, they've been playing a lot better as of late, getting healthier, and yeah, I think just the added, or not the added, the offensive threats that they have can't be like not acknowledged, essentially. Especially in the playoffs. Yeah, game like a 7-game series, and in the playoffs, all of those guys have been premier like players in the playoffs. And then yeah, I think them in tandem will be great. They had a few small pickups on the end of their bench type.
Royce O'Neal was actually a pretty big pickup.
Yeah, exactly. So they got like a Royce O'Neal, and then I think was it a trade or something for someone else? We had talked about it the other day too, where it was like that was a decent like player to actually just. Oh yeah, I think like Thaddeus Young is there too.
They signed Thad, yeah.
I think they signed that. I think what is it? Royce O'Neal was the guy that they traded, and we talked about.
Royce was the guy we talked about. I think he's a big pickup.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is a big pickup for sure. And then yeah, I think the signing of like Thaddeus Young is just another like smart player who can do something well. And by that point, they have like 8 solid. Well, obviously their top 3 is like great, but 8 like good players. And in the playoff series, you don't need to go to that 9-10 guy.
Exactly.
So they're I wouldn't be surprised if they could do some. And that's another team where I'm just like, oh yeah, I would take them over the Wolves. You know what I'm saying?
I would too.
I'm not listing other teams for sure, but
the Suns, I looked at them just kind of like the same as I viewed Giannis. It's like you got KD and Book. Man, there's no way, like they're not contending. But just, I mean, just in general, like just the way they've been playing. I've peeped some Suns game, and like it just seems like they're more cohesive and they figure each other out. And it's like come playoff time, I think they'll definitely be more than ready then to really compete this time and kind of go deeper than they did last year. Because I think KD's kind of just like, you know, he's just here to hoop. At the end of the day, it's like, yo, he really trying to win. And then Book is just that finals run kind of scarred him too. So we're gonna see. I mean, I'm not trying to say like they'll be in the Western Conference Finals, because I think they'll have a tough time if they're gonna have to match up with either the Clippers or Denver. So it's definitely gonna be a tough run for them.
Yeah, I think they're weird.
Built for it.
Oh, you can finish up.
I think they're built. They're ready for it. It's just a matter of will their 3 stars rise up to the occasion.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're like funny to me because I talk about like ceilings and floors. I'm like, they feel like a like a high floor and like low ceiling team, where it's like they're not gonna magically just start playing like crazy ball, but they already are playing at a very high level anyways, to where if things go right for them, it wouldn't surprise me if they just kept this level of play and got to the finals, whether it be like someone getting injury or like basically someone else missing games or something, or like another team dealing with something, or a main contender getting knocked out or something like that. It wouldn't surprise me if the Suns were able to reach the finals because of that.
Yeah, that's actually what I had in my notes here, where it's like obviously the big 3, and then we talked about the additions of Royce. Okogi's a good piece. Grayson Allen's a good piece they acquired. I think they got him for Ayton, right? Yeah.
Who? Nurkic?
Grayson Allen and Nurkic.
Oh.
Yeah, so they got Grayson Allen and Nurkic for Ayton, so that was a good trade-off for depth and honestly a disgruntled player. But like just the build of them, just you look at the big 3, they're big 3. They're one of the few big 3s where like I guess you can call them superstars. Maybe you want to call Book a superstar or not, but I don't want to really get into that. But but when you talk about that big 3, they're such a cohesive big 3, right? Because all 3 of them are great isolation players and they can get their own buckets. But then they're also such great shooters that they can play off ball together.
Yeah.
So that dynamic in a playoff setting is actually really interesting to me, because I don't think they can beat the Nuggets of the Clippers like on paper. Just for me, I'm like I wouldn't.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But there's a world out there where if you're in a series against the Suns, they have the star power to take 4 games from you.
Even just off of like pure consistency, bro.
Exactly. Like and KD and Book and Beal are pretty efficient players. They're not like they're volume scorers. They can score. They've all averaged like 28, 30 points. But they're not like the 28, 30 points where you're gonna see like 5 for 30.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You might, obviously that happens to everybody, but like these guys are efficient scorers. So I really want to see them in the playoffs. Low key, I kind of want to see them play the Warriors.
That'd be fun.
Because of the beef, right? With Draymond and Nurkic. I love that shit. Give me 7 games. But man, the Suns, I'm on, like, to be honest with you, they're like a true dark horse in my opinion. Where
No, I agree. They're like definitely out at the top of that echelon. They're like all the same players in different variables, though. It's hilarious.
But actually, props to their GM though. Like, I didn't think they would be able to build around those 3 guys.
Yeah, they've just been picking up a small piece in like random ass scenarios.
And it moves the
like free agency. Yeah, and it's like it's good.
Like, how the fuck do you like? This dude was literally playing 2K somehow.
No, actually, like I don't know how they keep. They're still able to sign someone off of buyouts or like trades. It's like what assets do they have, bro?
Like actually, the second round picks, dude. Come on, man.
I was shocked. But we got another team.
You got like those are all my teams. Those are all my teams.
Well, those are all your teams.
Yeah.
Did you get any other teams, Nathan?
I mean, the other teams I really have are just kind of real dark horse. Like everything got perfect for them. So I mean, I just have one more team that are like a real contender, I guess, like the second tier. But I think I'm pretty sure you're gonna say
what
if you want to say it.
This was actually I had them too. I'm just looking, but I knew Kyle was gonna say him. So yeah, I didn't want to be the one that said him. I didn't want to be the one that said him.
Yeah, I don't want to. I was waiting for you.
That's funny. No, yeah, the Mavs have been my pick for a while, but I think they're like, bro, they're bound to go on a stretch for me, in my opinion. They're not far out. Like, yes, they're the 7th seed, but they're not far. They're 1 game back from the Suns, which are 5th seed. And they're 4 games back from the Nuggets, who are the 4th seed. But that I don't really care too much about that. I just think overall the team is getting healthy. Luka's co-star Kyrie has missed like 20 something games, and they're still at the record that they are at. So Luka has been playing as like the best player in the league, outside of Embiid when he was healthy, in my opinion. So that is like a great element. I'm always going to trust him in the playoffs, as we've seen. Like, he goes fucking nuclear and can absolutely carry series. And yeah, the pieces that they picked up through the trades was phenomenal for what they needed. They got the front court size with PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. And yeah, they've always had, or since the season started, they've been having a lot of like random knick-knack injuries to their players. But I do think post All-Star break, they'll be able to get a lot of their pieces back healthy. One of the main ones being like Derek Lively. I think he was having like a nose issue or like injury at the time. So we didn't even see the Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively like combination. But I think having both of those will be another element in their defensive front court. That can that'll change the squad. And I think they're bound for like a big run. They're already on like a 6-game winning streak coming into the All-Star break. And I see no reason why they can't just like continue that, especially because of Luka's play for one, and the rest of the team getting healthy. I think our biggest thing in the beginning of the season was that we know offensively they're amazing because of Luka and Kyrie, and that works. But we just weren't sure if the defensive end could be like held up. And we like the stuff that they picked up in the free agency and like trades and stuff that offseason. But they got even better defensively with a lot of their pieces from like the trade deadline, and even like random pieces that we didn't expect. Like Dante Exum has become like an actual player. Derrick Jones Jr. was a starter and was like very efficient when he was playing as a starter because he knew his role. Tim Hardaway Jr. was like damn near 6th man of the year, and he could still be in contention for that. And yeah, Josh Green is like, he's still playing his game and like a great defensive point of attack player. So yeah, I for sure, and like that's like another team that I was like, I would pick them over the Wolves. So like at that point, I got that like I had like 5 teams. So I was like, fuck, I don't know if I would choose the Wolves, but I do think the Mavs could peak at the finals too.
Yeah, I like the Mavs, but I'm looking at the standings in the West, and low key, if the season were to end today, right? The Clippers and the Nuggets are 3 and 4. And low key, you would probably rather be a 7 or 8 seed than
I mean, maybe, yeah.
5 or
You
6
do
seed.
want to verse that
You know what
young
I mean?
team for sure.
You do not want to play the Clippers or the Nuggets in the first round, right?
Yeah.
So like, I'm really interested in how the standings end up shaping up because I feel like dating back to 2022, I think that's the last time you really saw teams jockeying for position where we're gonna be real honest here. The Bucks are trying to avoid the Nets, and I think that's pretty much been confirmed at this point, right? Or so like they were like, hey, we don't want to play the Nets in the first round, so we want the third seed. Like that might be a thing here in the West for like the teams that are like 5 through 10, right? Because I'm wondering where that position goes. Because if I like the Mavericks, because I love the addition of Gafford. He's someone I wanted on the Celtics for the last couple of years when the Wizards sucked, trade deadline shit. I like the addition of PJ Washington, right?
Yeah.
I like the D addition of Grant Williams. But like
that is facts too, though.
but like I'm looking at the standings and there's a world where they're first round exits.
Yeah.
But then there's also a world where they're in the conference finals. You know what I mean? So
it's a scenario for like a lot of teams.
Exactly.
Though, for sure.
Especially in the West.
I mean, it's the same thing with the Suns. It's like if they were to play today, the Nuggets. I'm taking the Nuggets.
No, they're not making it out of the first round
exit.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's like I think just the element of Luka makes me a lot more inclined to choose the Mavs in like that scenario. Like I've been like backing up the Mavs, so like obviously there's personal bias there too. But I think when I talk about the Suns and I'm like that low ceiling, I think the high ceiling or like a high ceiling applies to the Mavs because Luka exists. Like if he can completely take over a series and backpack them to a Western Conference Finals as we've seen before. And obviously like James Harden is the new addition to the Clippers, but I mean he's done it to the Clippers before or multiple times. So like that exists already for me. And yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they peak in a way that their form is just better than all the other teams.
For sure.
But no, I do agree. I'm super interested to see about like where in the standings and if people play alongside that kind of like game.
For sure. You're basically kind of positioning yourself because like I ain't gonna shame somebody for ending up in the play-in to play the Wolves or the Thunder instead of the Clippers or the Nuggets because I'm doing it.
Yeah, so I mean, based off of what you guys were talking about, it seems like you don't have these two teams on.
I don't have them, but I have these two teams. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So, and I mean, when we talk about like playing young teams / like wanting to verse the 1 and the 2, I think these guys fall in line with that concept. With the Warriors and the Lakers, I do think they can also peak into the finals, which is why I put them on the list. Obviously they have a lot of deficiencies and like they have been up and down throughout the season, but they have been playing a lot better as of recently. Both the teams, they're getting healthier, and I think them versing those young teams in the first round can further solidify that for me, because I think it is actually like a toss up if I would take like the T-Wolves over the Lakers or the Warriors. Same thing with the Thunder. I really like the Thunder's game, but it wouldn't surprise me if in a 7-game series, Bron and AD end up just fucking dominating the Thunder squad.
Young and inexperienced.
Yeah. So that, I had them on my list, and at that point, I'm like, I damn near have like 6-7 Western Conference teams, and I think all of them have a legitimate chance, which is dope. I mean, no, you guys.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not gonna.
I had the Lakers. I had the Lakers as like my the ultimate, but a dark horse.
Yeah,
because you got LeBron and AD, and I mean, we kind of seen in the in-season tournament what they could do when they lock in, I guess. But obviously, playoffs would be different. It's gonna be a 7-game series, but again, if they end up being that 7 to 8 seed, it's gonna be a nightmare for if the Thunder and the Wolves stay 1 and 2.
In the top 2. Yep.
Yeah, and I think the Lakers are just, again, like you were saying, they're just more experienced. They have the team to just kind of just be like, all right, we're playing this team. We're just gonna go out and finish them in like 5 games. I wouldn't even be surprised if they swept one of those 2 teams, because I think that they just have it in them, and I think if they're already in that 7th, 8th spot, they're going to be in a kind of like in a headspace that they're underdogs already, so they're just going to go out and kind of like kill. And then I just don't think OKC or the Wolves will be ready for that. They'll just be like, all right, we earned this. We worked our way to be 1 and 2. I mean, we should be able to take out our 7, 8 seed. But again, I think it go either way though, because with a team like that so young, they look at LeBron and they be like, damn, these guys been in the league for a while, or they see Steph and they're like, all right, this might actually be more, tougher than we expect, which it's definitely going to be because I mean you got to debate that could be the greatest of all time on one team, and then the best point guard in my opinion on and Steph Curry on the other.
I agree.
So like, yeah, you're gonna pick your poison. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Like I do like the Warriors too as a contender, but I just didn't really have them because it's like I think it's just the end of the dynasty here, man. Like they can be primed for a run, but I think Steph Curry is just gonna like run out of gas. Like,
I would say the Warriors are like the lowest end of this bar for me, where I say like I could see them peaking at the finals or whatever. But I think the main thing or the one thing that they lack is that secondary like score. Kuminga was showing flashes and stuff like that, but I'm never gonna bank on Kuminga in the playoffs right now. Like he's way too young, but like to have that secondary score be him would be asking a lot essentially. But on all the other ends, I actually really like the team, especially now that they're meshing more. With the additions of like Pods and like Kuminga even just being like a great player. I think they have so many players who can do a lot of things well, essentially. And, they still have like the superstar in Curry and stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me if they took advantage a lot of certain playoff deficiencies that teams have. But like I said, they're definitely on like the last end of like that tier. Outside of that, like that's the cutoff for me, the Warriors.
I could see the Lakers in a playoff series, but I don't know about the Warriors, man. They're just gonna be relying too heavily on Steph, I feel. And in a 7-game series, I mean, with Clay being washed Clay again, I just don't see the Warriors. But I can see the Lakers. They are prime. They're literally the archetype for being in, like, built and hopefully make the playoffs, and then
it's the same squad that made the Western Conference Finals. So it's
LeBron even at 39, AD's been healthy. I think he's played every game this year, which is kind of crazy.
I think he's missed like less.
He missed like 2 or 3.
Yeah, he's for load management, but he hasn't actually missed a game because of like an actual injury. So he's been pretty healthy. So I mean, I can see the dark horse there. Austin Reeves, Hachimura has been good.
Yep, D'Lo's learning how to play with them again.
Yep, D'Lo's not a black.
Learning how to play basketball,
so
he's been cooking. It's been great.
It'll be interesting. I don't know if I guess it depends on where they land in the play-in.
Both of those guys are like at the end of my thing, so it's like it's not like I was gonna campaign for them crazy, and I'm sure like you guys aren't either.
Not for sure.
But they exist on this contenders list in my opinion. I can't.
You can't count out Steph and LeBron.
Yeah, exactly.
The faces of the league, right? But no, okay, no, for real. Okay, so a lot of this shit's been going around, right? And I don't know if you guys have seen it.
Of course.
Just everybo's talking about it, so we kind of have to talk about it, right? And we'll kind of get our opinions in here. Face of the league. I know everybody has their own criteria. I think the one kind of unanimous criteria is you have to have a championship.
Oh, I thought you had to have that aura, bro.
Yeah, the aura.
I thought that was the one criteria.
That's the criteria on Twitter, I guess. Right? But like, I think part of the carrying the torch type of deal is winning a ring for a lot of people. I'm not saying that I agree fully.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a world where, like, dude, at some point, you're gonna get to a point where the perennial face of your league maybe doesn't have a ring. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, I can't like attest to this because I was younger, but I was like, it didn't feel to me that Kobe was still the face of the league even before Braun won a chip. Like it felt like Braun had already taken that mantle because it was only a matter of time before he won the chip. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like LeBron was anointed like in 07. when he made
That's what I'm
the run
saying.
to the finals.
Yeah, so it's like at that point, or
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think that it needs to be the criteria. I know people have been talking about it in that way, but I'm like, LeBron was so great that he basically had that mantle without winning the chip yet.
My personal criteria is just like consistent success, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? And that's I feel personally, in my opinion, that's the best criteria. But like obviously everybody's gonna have their own opinion, right? And the unanimous opinion has been, or overwhelming opinion has been, you need a ring, right? And that's fair. It's a fair argument, I think. But like anyway, so face of the league. I think we can all agree, right? Stepping out.
I'm gonna throw a fucking curveball.
I'm not gonna throw a curveball. You're gonna throw a curveball, or
I'm gonna throw a curveball.
Oh no! Wait, for what?
Nah, but just go. We can talk, but y'all are gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
Okay,
maybe I feel like y'all are gonna say, "What the fuck?"
Okay, I'm very interested in hearing what you're gonna say now. So, okay, like I think the unanimous names here are Steph, LeBron, KD, right? Like they're the guys kind of like stepping out, and they're kind of the faces of the league, and then you kind of have that middle ground that they're already, I feel, there. Like Joker, Giannis, those guys are kind of there. And then you have the next up people. I guess you could throw Embiid there. He's been the MVP. But the next up mantle, I think the conversation surrounding this is, can Jason Tatum be the face of the league? And then I think the names that have been thrown out ahead of him, SGA, and I think people have thrown Ja's name out there. I saw.
Ja's been in there for sure. I know, like I saw JJ talk about Tyrese.
Yeah, I've seen Tyrese's name get thrown out. But like, I feel like it's crazy, right? Because I saw a specific clip from Nick Wright recently. I literally just saw the clip like before we hopped on the pod, and he's talking about like he's throwing out names where it's like, oh yeah, you know, LeBron, KD, Steph, blah blah blah, and then he's throwing out the next up names where he's like, oh, you know, SGA, Tyrese Halliburton, Ant Edwards, all that shit, right? And then he made a point here where I was cringing, laughing, and like angry at the same time. I was like, dude, what are you saying?
Interesting. Right? I don't know what he said.
So, not verbatim, but he said something along the lines of like, okay, when he says Ant Edwards, SGA, Luka, all that, right? He's like, they're so great that you kind of expect them to eventually win a championship. Right? And you kind of see them as the players that will lead a team to a championship as the guy. And he doesn't see Tatum as that. And I'm like, between all those guys, Tatum's actually been there. So like, I wanted to get both of your opinions on the face of the league conversation. And I think we kind of know what you're gonna say about Jason Tatum, but like, I think talk a little bit about that, and then kind of throw the names in, because I agree with a lot of these names.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of names.
I just don't agree with excluding Jason Tatum.
I think the exclusion is just simply the fact that he has been talked about since he entered the league.
Yeah,
like I think people, or maybe a lot of media heads too, don't realize that him and Shea are basically the same age, because no one was talking about Shea until like last year, basically, and like mainly this year for sure. While like Tatum has been a topic about being, you know, next up and all that kind of stuff since he was entering the league, essentially. So I feel like they treat him as if he is a seasoned vet rather than like what his actual age is, and whether that's like fair or unfair is whatever. But I just think that because his name has been there so long and he hasn't won something yet, automatically like dismisses them from like next up, because he I feel like is already being put into the tiers of like the Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis of players, not in terms of like, oh, he's as great as them or anything like that, but more so as like they've been so great for that long that all of those guys have already like accomplished stuff.
They think while he's like Tatum 30 and not 25.
Yeah, basically. While like Tatum technically hasn't really accomplished stuff, but he has been in talks since those guys have been like great or like amazing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he doesn't feel like he fits with those other guys who are up and coming and could like take it by storm type of shit, because Tatum has been there since he came into the league. That's my opinion for the exclusion. But I mean, they think I'm talking about.
I mean, I can see that. But I just don't understand. Like, it's kind of crazy how you can say that because like it, I wouldn't say go like when the Celtics drafted him at 3. Like, I didn't think any he didn't even expect himself that he would come in and kind of contribute, immediately and kind of be in the trajectory that he was so quickly because of the injuries and stuff that we had dealt with and stuff. So I think like he kind of got over, like he shocked the world, and then again he started to get overlooked a little bit too much because it's like, all right, now he's showing his capabilities and his superstardom, and like now that like this is what we expect of him, and it's like okay, like he's done it from such a early, like in his early career, like okay, he's only going to keep going up, but I don't see how you could kind of take that away and say he's not like gonna be the face of the league. Because it's like to me, it's like he's a constant name that is always getting brought up. Like who's one of the top 5 players or top 10 players in the league? Like I don't think you're gonna say either like 5 names ahead of Jason Tatum, in my opinion. So like, and on top of that, it's like a face of the league. To me, it's not really just about like, yeah, it's about okay, what we've accomplished in the league, and okay, getting a ring could be a criteria for it. And everybody's different, but he's been seasoned, like you're saying, experienced. He's had multiple chances of leading a different type of squads and being part of different type of teams. And just aside from that, like face of the league kind of goes into like, yeah, it's what you do in the league, and then like just as a whole, like fans and stuff. Like if you look at it, one of the things I would say it's like top selling jerseys, for example. Like Steph Curry is number 1, and who's number 2? Jason Tatum.
Yep.
So how could you not be in the conversation of being a face of the league if you're loved by almost all the NBA fans? You know what I'm saying? So that kind of goes into how I would see it. So I don't understand how just the fact that people are just not really discrediting, but kind of again overlooking.
Just an afterthought. It can be in a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah, so I really think I would say Jason Tatum over anybody at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not that I agree with those guys, but that was just my personal theory overall. But I think the 3 names or the 4 names are probably like the most prime to. I know people talk about like the concept of American,
an international,
being an American player versus like an international player. I mean, I don't think people are counting Shea as an international player either. He's Canada, but I would say the main 3 that have been talked about in terms of like Shea, Ant, and Tatum, like all of those make sense. And then the 4th being Luka. I would just be interested to see if like the whole international aspect like actually plays a part. But Tatum is for sure the most like prime to take it, I guess. Especially with the concept of like winning a chip and stuff. But it wouldn't I guess surprise me if those other guys are able to do so if Tatum doesn't deliver within like a year or 2 or something like that. Because I mean, we already can see how like the last 2 years have already affected him because of talks like this. Like now people aren't even talking about him being a face of the league because of 2 playoff runs that didn't end like great for him. So I think if 1 or 2 again were to happen, I think he may be like fucking eliminated from that conversation. the way that the media be moving. So that it wouldn't surprise me if those other guys like came about and trumped him if that were to happen. But I think those 4 names are the most obvious names.
Agreed.
And I agree with all of them.
I do like the theory. I do like that theory though. Like, and it does make sense, and it kind of plays into a lot of talking points that you see kind of going around the media between NBA Twitter or anywhere there's discussion about basketball. These are kind of the talking points, right? And I kind of agree because he literally was in the Eastern Conference Finals as a rookie, right? And he's been to 4 Eastern Conference Finals, had a finals run, won Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and I can kind of see where they've talked about him so much for the last 6-7 years that it does come off like he's 28, 29, 30 years old. right? But that's because he's had all that success at such a young age. And it kind of plays into those talking points where the number one running theme is Jason Tatum's had a super team.
Super team.
And since he's come into the league.
I've been seeing that shit everywhere.
Where it's like, nah, not really, man. Like, I think the closest thing to that may have been 2019, but then that was kind of like a super dysfunctional year. But every other year, other than maybe last year, and even last year, like, I don't think that's a super team. And nobody was looking at the 2022 team as a super team. They were like 21 and 25 midway through the year. So I think that kind of narrative and talking points kind of puts a diminishing tone on how you view Jason Tatum and his success, because it's like, oh, he's supposed to be there, right?
Yeah.
And my favorite thing is like, they're like, oh, he was in a good situation. One of my favorite things that I saw someone else say, I don't want to take credit for it, is he wasn't put in the good situation. He is the good situation. The situation is good because of him. And there's a lot of shit that the Celtics have kind of gone through that would have derailed a lot of other teams, and we weren't derailed because of him, right? We've gone through 3 consecutive coaching changes, the Kyrie situation, like a lot of that shit would have dismantled teams, like losing the GM and transitioning to Brad. Like, that shit could derail a lot of franchises, and it hasn't because of him, right? So it's just interesting to me that they do view, and that's why I like the theory. I think they do view him as probably more in the echelon of a Jimmy Butler or even.
There's hella comparisons between the two, and they're damn near like 10 years apart. Exactly, like, that's fucking crazy.
That's insane. Or even Embiid. Like, I feel like they maybe even put him in that same conversation as Embiid, where he's like super old. Like, I mean, he's not that old. I'm not old, right? But you know what I mean? Like, he's older, so like
like, people don't be giving, and I mean, even I don't give a lot of credit to Embiid or like have a lot of faith in his playoff potential, because we've seen it year in and year out.
Exactly.
And he's already the age that he is. Exactly. Where I'm just like, oh, I don't think that he can be a different player in the playoffs now.
You are who you are at that point,
Yeah, but it's like Tatum is so young that I can still see the growth for him and actually understanding the game, and how he can get his shots and stuff, all the stuff that we already talked about.
Yeah.
And because he's so young still. So it's like that concept is, I feel like, people are not piecing those two things together.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, in a way, it can be justified a little bit, because of the fact that he has had so many chances, I guess, or like so much experience, I would say, not so many chances, but hasn't been able to capitalize on it yet. I think he deserves some kind of like, not scrutiny, but like judgment for that, for sure. But I don't think that takes away from the concept that he could be the face of the league or anything like that.
I'm looking at it like this, right? Where it's like, you can't discredit Jason Tatum and then anoint guys the same age as him in the same light for having less success. So like, that's just my thing.
I agree.
But I'm very interested in the out of pocket shit you were about to say.
I mean, okay, it's not that crazy, but in my opinion, or I mean, maybe it is. We'll see what you guys say. I was gonna say that because I don't know if you guys were gonna end up saying like picking a person or whatever like that for next face of the league or whatever like that. Okay. But I was like, bro, I think it could be very obviously Wemby, and I think that the international player aspect is going to be interesting, which is why I bring up Luka too. Luka could obviously like peak crazy and take that as well, but I think that person that just fits all of those molds of like the Kobe's, the MJs, the LeBrons and stuff, I think it's very obviously Wemby, especially with the production that we've already seen. So it wouldn't surprise me that within like 3 or 4 years, right, we have this collection of guys, as in like Shea, Tatum, Ant, and stuff like that, who are at the top of the league and like the talking points and stuff like that. And maybe like 1 or 2 of them end up winning chips, but by then I genuinely feel like it'll just be Wemby's league from there on out. And it's ironic that no one really like that's what I'm saying. It's ironic that no one like really talks about him being the face of the league, because I mean, I haven't heard a single thing like that.
I think they're not really talking about him because he's still a rookie and Spurs aren't winning, right? Whereas SGA,
I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, SGA is second in the standings, Ant is first. Who's the other people they mentioned? Luka obviously has a team around him, and he's had playoff success. So like, My only outrage is not including Tatum because I think that's just weird because the criteria he fits the criteria of everything they want. But no, Wemby's probably gonna be that guy.
Yeah, because I mean, me personally, I feel like if there's a discussion about it, then none of them are going to be the face of the league.
Yeah,
like we already can tell or like have a feeling about certain players that they will be that guy.
Yeah,
like I'm assuming when LeBron and Kobe were youngins and still killing the game and stuff like that, everyone was like, damn. Obviously, they had competitors at like same age and stuff like that, but you had a good hunch that those guys were going to be. I
feel like
at the top because of the way that they played.
I feel like
and the production.
Yeah, I feel like the argument of the face, like the singular face, I guess can be made for certain guys, and then it's probably going to be Wemby. But like, there's usually a collective face. I feel like saying it's just one person is kind of like disingenuous because like in the '80s you're thinking Magic and Bird, and then
I think that was like a unique case though.
You throw in Dr. J. I think the '90s may be the only case where like I'm only really thinking of one guy, like Jordan. But then in the 2000s, I honestly thought Kobe and LeBron, and not just Kobe or LeBron.
Not just one.
You know
I think it was just like a segue of sorts. Between
exactly.
Anyways.
I think people just like passing the torch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I kind of view it as a collective because when I think of the 2000s, I think of not just LeBron and Kobe. I also think of Kevin Garnett. I also think of Tim Duncan. I also think of Shaq. Right? Those are names that pop up.
I don't know if I would say like face of the league though. I don't know if I like. Obviously, they're at the top of the top.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no way that I would ever be worried about that for the NBA because the talent just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
But face of the league, I just genuinely think of one person or like, or for a normie to know that one guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's a unique, or not even unique. I think even now it's LeBron and Steph. Like, I think KD is as great as he is. And I think maybe like 80% of people will know KD, but I still think like 95% of people will know. LeBron and Curry, in my opinion. So at that point, who is going to be that player is what I would assume the face of the league is, because like obviously Kevin Garnett isn't a deep cut or anything like that.
Yeah.
But a casual, I don't know, is gonna know like Kevin Garnett, maybe his face or something like that, or maybe even like the name, but they might not know who that player is. But it's like, LeBron, no one's gonna not know who LeBron was, and the same thing with Curry when he was peaking, and even now, like because he peaked so high, everyone knows who Curry is. So I think those guys are truly like face of the league type players. Where it's like, I don't know if any of these guys will reach that point outside of like Wemby reaching that crazy peak where he's so good that no one can not talk about him basically. I think those other guys will still be in the collective for sure, and they may be like not like I said, not deeper cuts, but casuals may not like know who each one of those guys are. But Wemby is the only one who really screams that to me out of everyone.
I can see that.
I can see that for sure.
I also see the jersey sale argument too. Popularity. Tatum.
No, if anyone were to have it right now, it'd be Tatum. Like I agree with that. Right. Like I said, I don't know how long that could be because I don't know where he's gonna reach. If he three-peats and shit, for sure, like he got that, bro. Like
no, I think we're reaching that level of the discussion where it's like now you're looking at what your criteria.
Now he's got to win.
No, your criteria of what the face of the league would be, and I agree. I think there's valid points all around where it's like I can see that as well, right? When you think of certain eras, you think of certain names, right? And then you think globally, everybody knew who like Michael Jordan was. Everybody knew right away who Kobe Bryant was, right? Kobe, right? Yep. I'm not saying that. Stop. Like,
but some people do.
Some people do it now. I'm gonna forever say Kobe, right? But that kind of feeds into the argument, right? So like same thing with LeBron. Everybody knew who LeBron was, but and then obviously the names like Tim Duncan, who won 5 rings. Maybe a casual doesn't know who Tim Duncan is. That'd be weird. But like, and then Steph kind of has reached that realm as well, right? With
I wouldn't even say casual, just like someone who doesn't really know ball, like who doesn't watch the NBA.
I guess.
Like a normie. in this context, a normie.
I guess that's the word you could use.
Like a normie would know who Curry and LeBron is, but I say like, who's Kevin Durant?
You know what?
They're like, he maybe play well.
You know what would be interesting? We can do like a case study and shit, and go around and ask our friends and family that don't watch ball, do they know who these people are?
Yeah.
We can get their fucking reaction. But no, I agree. I do like that criteria. But then I guess my personal criteria is I do like to group a bunch of players together. Maybe it's because I watch it all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I agree. There is a spectrum there where the face of the league is a household name, whether or not you watch the sport religiously
Mhm.
like we do. So
Yeah.
I could see.
Because I'm like, hey, in soccer, like more than all of us know Mbappe. Like we've heard the name.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Like,
that's
y'all don't know like Enzo or fucking Holland or something like that. Like maybe
I know Enzo Ferrari. What do you mean?
so it's like maybe y'all know Holland or something like that. But Mbappe is like the name of soccer.
Yeah, or like Ronaldo
like,
and Messi and shit.
Yeah, like those are faces of the league. And when you really get down to that criteria, obviously I don't really give a fuck. Like
at the end of the day,
like I'm a fan of the NBA, so like that collective of great players will trump it all. But when they talk about face of the league, they mean like those kind of caliber guys.
For sure.
In my opinion.
For sure. But I do think excluding Tatum is weird when you include.
Yeah. I mean, at the core, that's just.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that?
No. Said pretty much hit everything on the head. What I would have said.
But yeah, the Miami Heat are not contenders.
I agree.
It's a beautiful day in the world when that happens. Neither of
they don't even make the playoffs. Okay, I'll take that too.
But yeah, no, I think that's all we got.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to the playoffs, man. I'm looking forward to the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Looking forward.
We got basketball back today.
I'm looking forward to more discussions in the coming weeks, man. But until then, peace.
Peace.
Peace.